no matter what your role has been in 2020, it's been a very difficult year, hasn't it? Even if we get through, we need to understand what to expect for next year. We need to understand what we've been through. We need to understand the cost of the stress and all the new things, all the difficult things we've had to deal with. We don't understand that when we're going through it, because this stress reaction means that we shut down what it feels like and just focus on doing it. We'll have feelings, but we don't really understand it. Stress draws on our reserves of energy, deep reserves right in the core of our body. That's what enables us to keep going for so long. Shuts down our feedback system so that we're not getting messages from ourselves about how we are, about what we need to do. Now, that's an oversimplification, but that's a really important thing. We should assume we're not really very well in touch with ourselves, because we can't afford to feel emotions and fatigue. We're in the middle of it. One way that this is shown, this limited capacity to understand the whole situation, is the distorted sense of time. My God, is it a year already? It feels like yesterday that we went through that fire. Pandemic seems to have been going forever and ever. I can't remember what life was like before. You know, it seems to be too long or too short. That means we haven't been processing things properly. There's a tendency, though, for us to think, oh, I look forward so much to being out of lockdown and being into next year and through next summer. And oh, I'm going to breathe such a sigh of relief. I'll be able to relax and be myself again. Now, for many people, it's not so simple. But when you're in an extended period of stress, it's a bit like you're a diver working at depth and you've made all sorts of adjustments and compromises to your body and mind to just keep going with what you have to do. And when you are a diver, the problem is not going down doing the work, it's coming up. If you come up too quickly, the body can't undo all those adjustments as fast as you had to make them. Remember how quickly we had to make the adjustments to isolation and COVID. And of course, when the bushfire comes over the hill, you have to make those adjustments immediately and stay there. So we can't just instantly undo them all, because many of them are very deep physical adjustments to our bodily processes, as well as our mental and emotional processes. So it's going to take time, just like it takes a diver time to come up. It's going to take time to acclimatise to so-called normality. And I call this a decompression reaction. What might be some of the experiences of the decompression reaction? I think people find that their emotions fluctuate because they begin to feel the relief of how things are now, but then suddenly they start to feel something about everything that's been happening because they've got the leisure to think about it. They start to feel some of the sadness of things they haven't given attention to. They feel frustrated, hurt, and lost. In case of the disaster, that period of busyness that goes on for the first year, for most of it, means that I haven't really had the leisure to think about what it all means. And so in the second year, that's the sort of thing that starts to come through. I start to feel the impact more clearly on how it's affected my life and that of my community and the people around me. And we were having a nice life beforehand. We didn't need this. You know? So there's a whole complexity of feelings and aspects of the experience that will keep coming to us. I think it's also important to remember that I think there'll be some mental features of decompression. restlessness, difficulty concentrating, procrastination, avoidance of complex tasks. After all, many of us have been working for a whole year without stopping and thinking about it. And so when life does slow down a little and start to return to normal, we just don't feel like working anymore. And so it's hard to keep us doing the things we have to do. We find ourselves being inefficient and just feeling, I just don't want to deal with these things. Thinking and problem solving and dealing with complexities just seems too hard. And what underpins all of these reactions is a very profound sense of fatigue. Not just I'm very tired, I need to lie down and have a rest, but I'm tired emotionally and mentally and, if you like, spiritually. I've been through a really long, hard time. And I think it's most important to recognise that sense of fatigue, deep fatigue. And that's not going to be remedied by, quiet weekend. That's something that's going to slowly come good. It will come good, but we'll have to actually keep our eye on it. And what can we do to support this? There's a few things we can do, because the source of fatigue is this drawing on deep reserves of energy, and those reserves that have been depleted and have to be supplied. The first thing we can do is recognise one of the greatest sources of energy is our relationships, our social relationships. The joy of just being together. Networks, reactivate networks. Often in the stress, they're not only let go, but maybe they're full of tensions and conflicts because we've all been short-tempered. Try to just do things for fun. Maybe the community can put on some event. Maybe the family can get together and decide to do something just for the sake of having fun. Try to focus on achieving some steady and realistic goals that give a sense of reward, a project, get a garden going, build something, make something, do something, so that there's a sense of having achieved it. Some project that's not demanding and it's quite satisfying to do. To just have leisure, things which don't require any attention at all, where you set aside time to just hang out and do nothing, to be with friends or the family. Just Sunday afternoon is a time when we don't plan anything at all, and see what happens there. And try in that time to just give each other your full attention and yourself so that you know what you need. Let things happen. Try to keep going with hobbies and valued activities like artistic activities, musical instrument or painting or any recreational pursuit or making things or working in a workshop or tinkering with machinery. Whatever is your enjoyment, try and do it and try and select tasks that you'll get satisfaction from. There's nothing to replace that joy of satisfying creation, whether it's fixing a motorbike or painting a picture or singing a song. These are really important things we need to do. And we can summarise this with the old cliche that the remedy is for this deep sense of fatigue is pleasure and leisure. Really prioritising enjoyment during this year. It's quality, not a quantity. We just need doses of it regularly. Leisure, where there's no demands. I put aside all the worries of things I have to do. We can do that for half an hour or an hour, an afternoon or a day, and do it regularly. It's a sad but common thing that people who've suffered from a serious bereavement will often say, Yes, the first year was terrible, but actually I think the second year was worse. Now, I've worked with people through that journey. I'm not sure it's quite right, because you could see how much they struggled every day with things in the first year. What I think they're really trying to say is that in the second year, I was no longer as numb, and I was much more aware, and I started to feel things more, and that's why it felt worse. And I think we should be prepared for that. But I think we should understand the function of that feeling, that's what really helps us to anchor the reality of what we've been through, and that's the foundation of our resilience and our growth. We've been through it. What have we learned? What have we built? How do we need to recreate our lives? And as we come out of this fatigue, we'll be able to look ahead and think about what we're going to do with the rest of our lives. These all important questions of how have we learned and grown? What's talked about as post-traumatic growth. It's a really important thing. To do that, we must have energy to engage in the creative processes. And so I see the second year as being really important to rebuild that energy. There'll still be a lot of issues, still be a lot of houses to be built and so on, a lot of farms to be reactivated. But try not to get stampeded into getting all that done. That's the important thing. The important thing is to rebuild the energy so you can hold on to the meaning and the value of life.